Last week, I cashed out $1,743 right here, um, as an Uber driver, which is basically meaning that I drove a lot, and that's how much money I put into my bank account. But that's really what I made, and I wanted to kind of walk you through it. So let me show you some information here. This is kind of what we normally look at as rideshare drivers, right? We look at our earnings, and you can see on Monday, Tuesday, I worked pretty long. Wednesday, I didn't really work at all. Thursday, Friday was the big day. And so I was online for 44 hours, active, meaning I was either going to pick up somebody or have somebody in my car. I did 70 trips. Here is where it kind of gets pretty interesting. The fares were only $1,124. I had $210 in promotions. That was the Tesla, or not the Tesla, but the Uber 200 trips in a month, and you get $210 EV bonus. $142 is sick leave because I'm in the state of New York, so I get sick leave. Here's the number I'm always most proud of. How many tips did I earn? So $254 in tips. In fact, out of my 70 trips, I had 35 tip me in the app. So half tip me in the app. And then another, I think two or three, I had some cash tips. So more than half of my passengers tipped me. So I was really happy with that. But again, that's not really what I made either. Let's take a look at the numbers here, just so you can kind of see it. I broke it down into a table so we can look at it. I actually had to charge my car. I drove so many miles that I had to charge it. So here's all the charging stops. I $8, $17, $18, $7, and $8 and $12. So I spent roughly $74. Maybe not roughly, exactly $74 charging my car. And for those of you who are always kind of curious, well, how far was I able to go with that? I don't know. These are the kilowatts. I still don't fully understand it. You think I would after owning a Tesla for so long. But here's the real interesting thing. Take a look here. I spent 177 minutes sitting at a supercharger. That's not really too bad if you think about it, though, because I did drive a lot. I was out in my car for 50 some odd hours. So for 177 minutes, a lot of these were just breaks. I got some coffee, like, or something like that at a Panera. So not too bad, but $74 in cash expenses. So you might think, well, Levi, you cashed out $1,743 and you supercharged $74. So $1,669 is the cash in my bank account. But that's not right either, is it? Let's take a look at it. Let's do some more analysis. Here's all the miles that I drove. So I use Stride to capture the miles for this. So 340 miles, 73 miles, 42 miles, 40 miles, 363 miles was the big one on this day here. And then, of course, 349. So it goes in reverse Monday through Friday. So a lot of miles put on my car. So let's take a look at it this way. Here's what the miles look like this way. Here's my fares, here's my tip, the number of trips, the miles, the active time versus online time versus drive time. So let me explain active time, online time, and drive time in miles. Okay. My active time is either going to pick up a passenger or a passenger in my car. Online time means the time my car was actually, or the app was on in, the Uber app here. Okay. Drive time is using the Stride app. It's basically tracking from the time I turn the car on or the app on to the time I turn it off. So basically the time I leave my house to the time I get home. 52 hours in roughly those 4 days, right? So that's a lot of work. It's roughly 12-hour days. So every time I turn the app on, I'm going to go for, 10 to 12 hours, if not more. And I do it in minutes because I use that as a calculation because I have miles and minutes. And that's what I'm trying to get to here. So this is not really a real number, how much money went into my bank account. We have to do some accounting. And we're going to use miles and minutes to kind of solve for this. So my cash per active hour was $55 an active hour. And I know a lot of my fellow Uber drivers like to look at the active hour because they're productive when they're online or they're working or whatever. But that's like $115,000 a year. That'd be really good if I was making that kind of money. Here's my cash per online hour, roughly $37 an hour, so $78,000 an hour. My cash per working hour is 66. So basically, from the time I left my house to the time I got home, um, I had $66,000, a year. That's not too bad, right? But that's still not accurate. Let's dive a little bit deeper here. All right, so here's my electricity costs. We're gonna go through some costs. So I drove 1,209 miles. My watts per mile, which is kind of like miles per gallon, was 270. Now, in the winter, it's higher. So I use more watts, more electricity, electrons per mile. And during the summer, it actually gets less. So that means my total watts that I used was 326,000. Kilowatts, kind of like gallons, 326. Supercharging kilowatts. I remember I charged the car 207 kilowatts. That's up here. Right, so here's my 207 kilowatts somewhere up in here. Where did I put that number? Charging. Here you go. 207 right here. So if I go back here and take a look at it, my home kilowatts use, because I remember I used 326, which means because I charge at home, 119 of those kilowatts were home charging. And my cost to charge per kilowatt at home is 14 cents. So my supercharging costs were $74. My home costs were $16. That means for electricity, $90 is what I spent. My electricity cost per mile is 8 cents. Now, you guys are kind of like, maybe, what does that look like in terms of like a car? Well, let's just take a look. Let's just say you have a car that gets 35 miles to the gallon, right? Yeah. And you drove 1,209 miles. So that equals 1,209 divided by 35. You had 34 gallons that you used, right? And let's just say gas is $3.25 cost per gallon equals this times this. $112 is your total fuel cost, right? And if that was your fuel cost, then you can break that down just a little bit more here and say, what is my cost per mile? 9 cents. So if you were to get, let's just say a car that gets 20 miles a gallon, 16 cents. If you were to get 60 miles a gallon, like a Prius, you're at 5 cents. So quick little heads up here. A Tesla supercharging can be very expensive, but if you charge at home, it's super cheap. So that's the trade-off. And I put a lot of miles in the car. There's that. Now, I have depreciation costs. Let's put those together here for you. My car was $38,500 when I purchased it. I'm going to pay $5,748 in interest. That's not really true, but that's roughly a number. I'm paying it off much quicker than that. And that, whatever, it doesn't matter. But let's say interest. Salvage value is $1,000. That's what it's going to be worth when I drive the hell out of it. My estimated depreciation is going to be $45,000 over 300,000 miles. So 15 cents per mile is my depreciation costs. Maintenance, just kind of throwing some rough numbers in here. Tires over the life of the vehicle, brakes, replacement battery. That's right. If I have to replace the battery, could be more, could be less, but let's just say 10,000. Other maintenance costs. So estimated maintenance is 23,000 over 300,000 miles. So 8 cents per mile. So I drove 1,209 miles and my cost per mile is 30 cents per mile. So my estimated costs for that week. Now these are estimated costs, not real costs. Estimated cost, $365. Are you with me so far again? So again, I have to account for depreciation because if I'm burning few miles on my car, it's costing me money. Even though it's not costing me that day, that month, that week, I better start saving for that. I better start accounting for it. And that's what this is. Same with tires or brakes. Even though I don't need to buy tires every single week, I need to save for them. And so you use this cost per mile as a way to actually start saving money for those purchases. Okay, so here's my real profit and loss statement. Cash flow. All right. So I had a cash out of $1,043, but 12 of those dollars actually came from previous week's tips. I got a tip. You know, a tip comes in a week or two later. So I can't really count that as my profitability, my revenue for that um, that week. And then so I earned $1,730. But the EV promo, I have to take some of that out. I got $210. I earned $210 that week. Actually, a lot of that money was from previous weeks, only 70 trips. So those 70 trips, if I adjust that, I'm down $137. And then my sick leave adjustment. Basically, I earn 1 half day off every month. So instead of 145, I got to take $106 out of that. So my true revenue for that week was $1,486 minus my costs of 365. This is my true profitability, my margin, $1,020.84 right there. That makes sense so far. Is that all clear? So again, we start with, hey, look, I cashed out $1,743, but my real profitability is $1,220. So let's now look at my margin per active hour, $77. It was $37 per hour. My margin per online hour, 52,000. And then my margin per hour that I worked from the time I left my house to the time I got home, 44,000. And let me just make sure it's clear. That margin from the time I left my house to the time I got home, that's including breaks like charging the car, going for a walk. I go to the gym, I go get coffee sometimes. I definitely use the bathroom. Sometimes I do other things, play video games. I sit in the airport parking lot. So I don't know. So my real revenue, what I'm making per year, is somewhere between 52 to 44, somewhere in there. Let's call it roughly 50, just to be as accurate as possible. So let's take a look at my earnings breakdown. Where did all this money come from that I made this week? Well, the fare was only of the 70 trips was 70, or roughly $800. I get $254 in tips. I can explain more about tips on another day, but there's real tactics and real things that we can do to earn tips. There's my EV promotion, $150 in surges. We're all familiar with surge hunting and how to go get surges. I get a lot of reservations. I probably do 20 to 40 reservations a week. I do a lot of them. Yes, I cancel. If the passenger's not out, I cancel all the time. Uber X priority. Sometimes I do that. I really don't wait that long. Again, that's why I get bigger cancellation fees. Paid sick leave, which was crazy. So my earnings, I did make some money in tolls, 12 weeks or $12 in tips from previous weeks. So there's my 1,743 broken down. And I wanted to look at just an example of a day. So here is my Friday. So Friday was this number right here, 693. What I actually do. So let's take a look at all of my trips. And this is really interesting to me. So here's the earnings for every single one of my trips. So if I were to sort this descending, my biggest trip was an $86 comfort ride reservation. I also had a $43 reservation. Let me see, I'm gonna put more in the middle here. There you go. Then an Uber X, but I also did some shorties. Here's a 463, 466, 552. So I did a lot of shorties too. I was trying to complete that EV bonus, so I wanted to knock that out. So you see, here's the number of reservations I did that day on Friday. I did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 reservations out of my 26 trips. 7 of them were reservations. So again, a quarter of my trips. I focus a lot on reservations because I think they give a lot of tips. Again, if I were to go over here and look at tips, of my 7 reservations, 4 of them tipped. Now, I think airport trips are another good way to get tips. So right here, airport trips, I did another, what is it, 7 of those. And look at that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 of those 7 tipped also. Now, ratings, passenger ratings, I'm really high on picking up passengers with high ratings. Look at that. Here's my 5-star passengers. Of my 7 5-star passengers, take a look at this. 4 of them tipped. Time of day, you can see the earlier in the morning. If I were to descend that here, let's take a look. Descend that. Let's take a look here. Here you go. The early in the morning trips, the early in the mornings. Look again, 4 of those 8 trips tipped. So that was really good too. And then I think long trips tip. So let's take a look at my longer trips. The longer the trip, that again, more tips. So for me to get a tip, I think the things I kind of focus on are reservations, highly rated passengers, comfort trips. If I were to go look over here, sort this ascending comfort trips. Look at this. I take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 comfort trips, and I got 5 trips. So if I were to say my perfect trip would be an early morning comfort reservation to the airport with a 5-star passenger from way out in the boonies, all the way to the airport, something like that. Those are going to be the best trips to get tips. And you can see there's where a lot of my tips came in. Like $81 in tips that day. But I also kind of like to break it down where all the money went. So let's take a look here. The customer paid $769. And let's see here. How much did Uber get? Uber got $201. Let's take a look. That's what everybody gets excited about. How much did Uber get? And we'll break that down next here. So Uber got $36 on that one trip. Airport reservation. I only earned $39 at no tip. And Uber got $36. There you go. But Uber lost money on this one. So Uber, I earned $28. It was a 4.73 passenger. No tip, of course. And look at that. Boom. So again, there's the earnings for that day right there. Ask me questions if you have any questions about some of these, but you can see my margin per hour. My most profitable trip right here. Let's take a look here. My most profitable trip was $100 per hour. And let's take a look here. It was a short little trip. It's total 2 miles. Total time was roughly 6 minutes. It wasn't a surge. It wasn't a tip. It was just a basic fare. It was short as heck. And customer paid $25. Uber made $10 on that trip. I made $10. And it was my most profitable. So that's why I don't really focus too much on how much Uber makes. Uber was super profitable on that trip. I was super profitable. It was a short trip, and my margin per hour was the best. My least profitable trip, $15 an hour, was probably a real shorty right here. Low-rated passenger, short fare, but I probably drove I drove 2 miles. The total time was 15 minutes. It was a long pickup. I don't know why I took it. Probably a mistake, but I did it. So let's take a look here. Friday example, 15 hours, 26 trips. I got offered 104, so I only accepted 25% of the trips. 8 reserve rides, 8 comfort rides, 9 tips. There you go. Ooh, I just got another reserved ride. The reserve rides, I get a lot of them. I don't take them all. That one I'm not taking. That's a quick breakdown of the numbers. Let's take a look. Final things here. Customer payments. The customer paid over that week $2,000. They got promos. So they paid $2,270 after tips. So here's my weekly earnings. $1,730. Commercial insurance, TNC assessment, airport fees, benefits, tolls, reservation fee, paid sick leave, Uber service fee. That Uber service fee says negative $202 coming out of the passenger fare, but you have to add these two numbers back because I got these on that week too. So actually Uber lost about $50 that week. So let's take a look at my monthly accounting. I think this is the final number that everybody wants to see here. Over the month, customers paid about $10,000 and I earned $6,000 in the month of April for about 4 weeks. I got about 61% of the fare. And you can take a look right here at all the different weeks. Commercial insurance was massive, $1,632 in commercial insurance. I 100% believe that Uber is using my commercial insurance, whatever that 16% is, to fund other drivers and or to use as a slush fund. There's just no way. $20,000 a year for commercial insurance is just not correct. The TNC assessment is just a New York tax. Here's my airport surcharges, New York State benefits. So remember, I got $145 in benefits. I paid $265 into the system over that 4 weeks to get roughly $145. The Black Car Fund is another New York State benefit program that I'll never use, which sucks. Some tolls, whatever these stupid things are. That's right, I returned somebody's purse. Reservation fees. Look at that, $674 in reservation fees. I juice the reservation program as much as I possibly can. Uber made $2,276 minus these two numbers here. Again, because the reservation fee has to get added back. Because that reservation fee, it's hard to explain. I'm not going to explain it in this video. But Uber probably made more like $1,400, which is about, I don't know, 14%. Does that make sense to you guys? So again, it's always a challenge when we look at accounting. We get really excited when we see big numbers here or big numbers in our bank account. But I really think that we should do a better job as Uber drivers to account for our numbers. I appreciate you guys paying attention. Thank you so much. Be well. I'm cheering for you. Drive your way in 2025. Bye.